What up, guys, and welcome to episode 2 of Top 5 with Tony and Gabe. This week, we're going to be covering all horror movies of the past decade. This is our top 5 favorites. Gabe's going to give his list, I'll give mine, and then we're going to throw in some honorable mentions and talk about the decade overall and the landscape of horror and how it changed from 2010 till 2019. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'll let Gabe start us off, introduce himself, and, get you guys all caught up.
How you guys doing? Again, my name is Gabe. Like Tony said, we got a great episode for everybody today. Taking on some horror from the decade. See what's our best, what's our honorable mentions, and we'll go from there and have some fun with this.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and get started soon. You see anything good lately? Any horror? Any movies in general?
I rewatched Disturbia with and that was actually pretty good. Yeah,
that's a fun one.
It's pretty fun.
I gotta say, I love that movie. I love it. I haven't seen it in years, probably like maybe 5-6 years. That's the one to revisit. But that movie's a straight up blast. I remember seeing that in theaters, and it's a thrilling minute ride, and it's funny as hell too.
Yeah. I bought it at Big Lots for $3 on Blu-ray.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a trip to Big Lots right before the movies, I think.
Big Lots low key has a pretty good old school movie section, and a lot of them are Blu-ray.
Holy crap! Well, I'm looking up the nearest one in town before I head out to see Bad Boys 3. So I definitely would love to pick that up for $3 because that's a goddamn steal right there.
I want to see Bad Boys 3, you lucky bastard.
I am ridiculously excited. I've heard nothing but good things about it so far. So I got high hopes. I think it'll deliver. Even if it didn't have good reviews, I wouldn't have even cared because the past 2 films in the franchise had no good reviews at all. They're pretty much critically hated. For some reason, the critics are loving this one. Everybody keeps saying how good it is.
Because the first 2 were done by Michael Bay. For some reason, everybody hates Michael Bay, but his movies make money, and they're just good popcorn films. No critics could be like, oh my God, this Michael Bay film was amazing. Let's give him an Oscar. But they're just fun to see, blow shit up.
And it's weird because everything I've read about the movie is it carries over the same tone, the same style of action. It's got the Michael Bay shots. He's even a producer on it, too. I heard he has a cameo. But for some reason, it's gotten great reviews. So that's fun to hear. It looks like it'll be a hit for Will Smith. Hopefully, rejuvenates the franchise.
Oh, hopefully. One could only hope.
I know.
I'm just glad to see Martin back on the big screen. I mean, I missed Martin.
Me too. There's only so many Big Mama's movies you could do, but hopefully he makes the right choices this time. But it's fun to see him back on the big screen. He was fun in The Beach Bum. Not a great film, but he had a pretty good part in that as well. So, yeah, Bad Boys 3 tonight. Since I have AMC Movie Pass, I can check it out in IMAX. So that'll be pretty fun. I'm super excited for it.
Right.
And then I also checked out Underwater from last weekend.
That?
I liked it. It's you know what? It's not an amazing horror film. It's not like something I'm obsessive over, like Crawl or Ready or Not or maybe Dr. Sleep. But it's fun. It's a fun time. I think I'd say if I had to rate it, it's a good matinee to high rental. If you just want to check it out, I think the film carries its strengths on Kristen Stewart. She's awesome as this Ripley-esque sort of character. The underwater monsters are really fun. I think it kind of goes go big or go home near the end, which I wasn't a big fan of. I think everything gets set up in the first 2 acts was great. They do something in the 3rd act I wasn't too big of a fan of. It kind of shut me off a little bit, but nonetheless, it's still a great, fun time. The monsters are really cool. There's some good humor. It's nonstop thrills from beginning to end. There's not a dull moment. There's no filler. I do wonder why it sat on the shelf for 3 years, but I guess they had no idea what to do with it with the Disney Fox buyout. But it's a fun time. I think when people discover it on Blu-ray and stuff, they'll regret not seeing it in theaters. But it's nothing spectacular, just a fun monster movie, really cool creature designs, well-directed. Throughout it, I thought it was rated R, and then I read it was PG-13. So that shows how like powerful the brutality of the film is too. There's some really cool kills and stuff in it. But yeah, just a fun film. Not too much of an Alien ripoff like some people were saying. I think the only comparison I could see that happening with is the look of Kristen Stewart. Her character definitely looks like Ripley. But it's a fun movie. Definitely better than The Grudge, which I also had the chance to see. And I saw 2 movies since we last shot our last episode. The Grudge and Underwater in the span of 2 days. One movie was a fun palate cleanser, and the other one was I was bored out of my mind. And I never thought I'd say that watching a horror movie, but I was absolutely bored. And I think me and you talk about it all the time. When a horror movie is a horror movie, like at the very least, even if they're bad, they could be entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Hellfest, for example.
Yeah, Hellfest is a good example where it's just like, I wasn't a big fan of it, but like I can't say I was bored because it was a fun time. I don't know if I'd ever rewatch it again or something, but I was never bored watching it. There's some cool kills in that one too.
Right.
But
I mean, I think you and I are like the type of people that we can see the good and a bad movie where it could be a terrible movie, but we see the good in it and we could enjoy a bad movie. And for you to be able to say that The Grudge like was that boring for you, like that really like, takes account into how bad that movie is. Because I saw it as well, and I was like, like it didn't do anything for me. Like the original Grudge, yeah, like that one.
Fun movie.
Like, oh shit, fun movie. And this one, I was like, like the only positive I could take away was like the acting.
Yeah, the acting was good. This movie has a great cast for some reason. Like it has a really solid cast. John Cho's in there. I forget her name, Betty Gillespie. Whatever. From Glow. So there's a lot of great actors in this movie. And there's some cool things they do with the characters. If the characters had some sort of arc, then the movie works. And there's some cool visual sort of cinematography stuff going on, and some scares that the movie feels like the product of something that maybe is studio meddling. I'm not sure, because there's some interesting ideas where I'm like, oh, if this movie had a better pacing to it, better editing, better flow, if it developed the characters better, if it wasn't jumping all around Pulp Fiction style, it could have worked. But even then, I can't even think of scares that got me. When the scares happen, the jump scares that are in your face and they're making goofy faces. Like there's nothing really memorable. Any ties to the first movie are really axed within the first 20 seconds of the film. But and it's just like it's a really it's a really definitive sort of January movie that people like to say like January is like the throwing grounds of shitty movies. The Grudge is just like, man, this could have been really cool to do something with this property, and you kind of just like drop the ball a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't a big.
Yeah, I definitely get what you're coming from with that movie. I mean, it was pretty bad on my behalf. I got to ask you a question though, going back a little bit to Underwater. I know a lot of people compared it to Alien, but I saw a little bit of the Abyss in it. Like, was there any anything close to that?
I'd say yeah. I think on surface level, if people watch the trailers, they're going to see the Alien comparisons. When you watch the movie, it's definitely more in line with The Abyss and The Descent. I think those two movies is where it heavily pays homage and influence to. It's really like a white-knuckled sort of like tense, close quarters type movie. And I know a lot of people hate T.J. Miller. He's barely in it. He's kind of underused.
Right.
I know, but really, like if you're going into it, it's a cool monster movie. There's some cool monster designs. It's a shame that it flopped so hard because the movie cost a shit ton of money to make, like a buttload of money. But yeah, it's a solid film. I wasn't blown away or anything. I think the first half captured my attention thoroughly, and we were off to a really great start. And then I think it sort of fumbles near the end, but by then I was thoroughly entertained where I could let that slide a little bit and still recommend it to people check out whenever they get a chance to.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely probably check that out. Maybe a rental more than anything.
Yeah, when it comes to DVD, I recommend it. It's a fun watch. I don't think it's something that you need to like run out to go see. But if anybody has time, check it out. They have like a open Saturday morning or something, or even Tuesday. AMC does the $5 Tuesdays. So it's a solid film. Nothing crazy.
All right. Sounds something like something to watch out for when it comes out.
Right. But yeah, I mean that's really the two that I've seen recently. That one was pretty good, one was and yeah, I mean they're horror movies, so they have to do with our topic for today, which I think we should just go ahead and jump right into.
Sounds good. So we're gonna start off with the honorable mentions. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you the first crack at your first honorable mention here. What do you have for me?
All right. So this is like a great past 10 years of stuff, like really from all different genres and everything. And there's a bunch I could throw in. I was, for a while, I was going to mention the Fright Night remake. I think that's a solid remake, really fun. And it was almost on my honorable mentions, but I think, like bottom line, it's a great movie. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw in Piranha 3D because I feel like that would not be on a lot of people's top favorite horror films of the decade, but it's absolutely one of my favorite horror films of the decade. Not quite top 5, but definitely within top 20, I'd say. I just think Piranha 3 is the type of movie where everybody knows the movie they're in and the movie they're making, and they just go balls to the wall, insane. There's porn producers. There's Elizabeth Shue playing this small town sheriff. There's again Jerry O'Connell playing like a sleazy porn producer. There's Christopher Lloyd in it. Really there's a great cast. Adam Scott. The kills are insane. Alexander Aja, who did The Hills Have Eyes, High Tension, Crawl. He really knows how to direct violence, and the spring break sort of massacre that happens in this. I believe it's spring break, or it's some sort of thing that happens on the beach with the wet t-shirt contest and stuff. That massacre where the piranhas are just destroying everybody is one of my favorite horror scenes within the past decade as well. It has great violence, visceral violence. Seeing it in 3D was cool as hell. It holds up so well on Blu-ray. I feel like it's one of those movies you could just pop in and you could be thoroughly entertained from beginning to end. There's no filler. There's nothing. It's just a pure summer thriller ride. It's the definition of just a B movie. But it knows what it is. It has fun with it, and it's one of the most fun times I've probably ever had at a movie theater. So my first honorable mention is going to be Piranha 3D. I just think it's an insane fun time.
No, I definitely had a lot of fun with Piranha 3D. More along the lines at that point, along with with the nudity. That was always fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm always an advocate of nudity.
I think everyone.
I can't argue that fact. Yes, I would agree with you. Every horror movie should have nudity, male and female, right? Because we gotta, whatever your little thing is, whatever your flavor is. So male or female, but there should be nudity.
Male and female. No, I 100% agree. There was even a Batman comic that showed Batman sick. So even if superhero movies want to have nudity, I say go for it because it's beautiful.
Oh, absolutely! Like the Watchmen nudity. That was great. Dr. Manhattan.
Just walking around with his penis hanging out the entire runtime. There's never any context to it.
Absolutely.
I guess he would just eviscerate his clothing. So you might as well just have him walk around with his penis hanging out.
3 hours of blue penis.
What a great film. What's your honorable mention? What's one you want to throw out there?
The one I want to throw out there that started a little bit of a franchise, but sort of died towards the end of the of the 10s here, the 2010s. But that would be Sinister. They started off really strong in 2012. You had Ethan Hawke as, you know, a washed up writer. He finds some, you know, films from like the 60s in his basement, and it starts to uncover like it's a serial murderer that's going around. So it's sort of like a little bit of a mystery, a little bit of a thriller thrown in there, and then you have Ethan Hawke's, you know, acting chops that like really solidifies this as a, you know, not just like a B horror movie or a B
But
horror
like a
franchise.
real like dramatic horror film, which is what we're getting a lot now. And
Right.
Sinister was out of the curb with that too.
It really was. They had an A-list celebrity doing this type of horror, and then, you know, as the franchises went on, they got weaker and weaker. But the first Sinister to me was, you know, just the whole concept to me was just, you know, I thought it was an amazing concept for the time that it was. So that's my honorable mention, my first one for it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think Sinister is a great film. I think Scott Derrickson, who made that and Doctor Strange, is just super talented guy. I mean, it's a scary ass movie. Especially the footage, the scene when he's watching the tapes and stuff. It's just fucking creepy as hell, man. I really enjoy that one.
Right, because yeah.
No, yeah, it's a really, I think it's a solid fun time. I wouldn't argue with that being on an honorable mention list.
Yeah, no, because you know, it starts off like we said, like a serial killer, but then all of a sudden you also come into play, you know, some supernatural stuff that also goes into play. So I mean, it's a great overall movie. It incorporates a lot of themes into it.
Yeah, it's an awesome film, man. All right, I guess I'll move on to my next honorable mention. And how many do you want to do here? You want to do 3?
Yeah, let's do 3.
Okay. It's hard. I have a list of movies I'm looking at here. And I want to be a little different. I don't want to pick the obvious choices. So I think one movie I'm going to throw in, and I don't know if it's going to be on many lists, but I think it's an underappreciated horror movie. I know like a lot of fans of the community love it, but I think the general public maybe haven't had a chance to see it. It's on Netflix now. I know it had a big sort of festival debut. It's got Mr. Papa Giorgio in there from Vegas Vacation. And it's the heavy metal horror movie, Devil's Candy. I think Devil's Candy is, without a doubt, one of the coolest looking and feeling and acted horror movies within the past decade. It's really short. It's like 80 minutes long. It's straight to the point. It's creepy as hell. It has a great third act and a really memorable performance by Ethan Embry, who people may remember from like Can't Hardly Wait and again Vegas Vacation playing Rusty. And here he's like jacked. He's a painter. It's a really cool performance. It's a really cool film. I love the soundtrack, the art direction. So Devil's Candy, I'm going to throw in as an honorable mention. I think IFC Films puts out some really great horror films with this and The Autopsy of Jane Doe. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in Devil's Candy. Yeah. I think more people have to see it.
I'm gonna have to be on that list of people that need to see it. I've heard about it. I've seen comments about it, but I've never actually sat down and watched it.
I think it's totally worth a watch, man. You got to see it, and it's only 80 minutes long. It's not long at all. It's straight to the point. Like I said, no filler. It's all scares and really creepy, tense moments, and really nice family drama. It's a really good film.
Right. All right. So yeah, like I said, I'm gonna check that out. Maybe tonight. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow. I'm actually off work tomorrow, so we'll see.
There you go, Devil's Candy.
All right. For my second, it's a movie that everybody fell in love with. Everybody fell in love with the director. He had a great follow-up, and it was hard not to put it in my top 5. But once you see my top 5, you'll see why. But it's Get Out. Get Out is my honorable mention. It's a great, directorial debut by, Jordan Peele. It's a movie about social commentary. It's it's a black horror movie where, quote unquote spoiler alert, the black guy wins at the end. You know what I'm saying? Um, it's you know it was hard not to put it on the list, but because there was a couple misses with me on that movie, but overall in general, that movie I thought was great. It's amazing. It's an amazing movie. And the acting's well done. It was shot very well. The night scenes were amazing. The story behind it was great. So that's definitely one of my honorable mentions for today's episode.
Okay, I love Get Out. I think we're going to see it get mentioned here on the show a little later. I wouldn't argue it being on honorable mentions. I think it's definitely one of the best horror films of the decade. So it being shouted out in general is great anyway. So yeah, I'm with you. Get Out is pretty awesome. So I think I'll move on to mine then. I just had my list pop up and now it's like deleted. Let me see where the hell did it go? They edit. Where the hell did it go? All right, my list just got deleted. So let me. Wow. I think I could throw one in and just say it off the top of my head, but I'm really gonna have to look back and remember what my top 5 are. That fucking sucks. So I think another one I'm gonna go ahead and shout out. Now I don't know if I could quite put it in my top 5. I don't know if it's a film I'll ever revisit again, just because of the brutality of it, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with. I'm fucked up. I like fucked up movies. But I just don't know if it's one of those movies I could sit down and watch over and over and over. But I can definitely shout it out because I can recognize it's utterly fantastic, and that's Hereditary.
Okay.
I think Hereditary is super well directed, well shot. It's wonderfully acted. Toni Collette is a queen. She's incredible. Everything she's done, she's incredible. But especially this, Alex Wolff is awesome in it, and it has one of the most realistic sort of takes on family death and mourning. And even when shit hits the fan in the second act and on, it gets really messed up and creepy and unsettling. And it's one of the most terrifying experiences I've had in the theater, for sure. But it doesn't quite make my top 5 just because it's a really creepy movie. It's a crazy movie, but it's I think my taste is more crowd-pleasing horror. As much as I love this, and it's definitely within top 10 range, it doesn't quite make my top 5 just because I love a good crowd-pleasing sort of really upbeat horror film that drives things crazy in the third act. And Hereditary, by the time you leave, you just feel disgusted and gross. And which, that's the filmmaker's plan, is to make you feel disgusted and gross by the end, by the time it's over. But I have to recognize it's one of the best horror films of the decade. It's insane. It's scary as hell. And its follow-up is almost as good, Midsommar. I like it. I know you love Midsommar, but I think Hereditary is such a great debut. So yeah, Hereditary is I believe my last honorable mention of the list.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hereditary was a great movie, and it was definitely, like you said, a really messed up movie to watch. And as great as it is, it's sort of, there was something I felt like was lacking a little bit in the movie to really push it over the edge. But other than that, I think it was a wonderful, wonderful movie.
All right.
So I'm going to move on to my third one here. It's a low key, it's a sleeper hit. Or maybe it wasn't even a hit, but Overlord, that came out in 2018. I think it was October of 2018 is when it came out, and I had so much fun with that movie. The whole, sort of like Nazi Germany, zombies, creature type situation. You had Wyatt Russell, which is, Kurt Russell's son. He's in there, and he's so charismatic. He definitely should get, more roles. But I had so much fun with that movie, like the fast zombies, the fast creatures, the tense, when they're going into the bunkers and, trying to see what's going on, or them not being found by the German army. I don't know. That movie to me was, a really fun movie, and something that, sort of made you anxious as you were watching it because of the tension
Right.
that was built up, you know?
I love Overlord. I think it's insane, tension filled. It's bloody. It's like we talk about like our favorite kinds of flavors in horror movies. Overlord, totally kind of my horror movie, and I think it's definitely within my. If I had a top 20 of the decade, top 15, it's 100% in there. Um, and one of my favorite things about it is you mentioned Wyatt Russell. He's pretty much doing his best impersonation of his father. Like this is totally a movie Kurt
Right.
Russell would have done in the 80s. And it has elements of The Thing. It has elements of different kinds of zombie movies, and there's even elements that I know people think remind them of games like BioShock. It's a really creative, fun movie. It has really good stakes. It has a really solid cast. It feels like it's a really good men on a mission movie, really good war movie. And once it hits that third act, when things just go balls to the wall, everything but the kitchen sink, it becomes like one of the best third acts in a horror movie I've seen in recent memory. It's just insane. It's fun as hell. I have no complaints about that movie. It's fun. It's such a good blast.
Right.
So
It
I'm with
is.
you on
It
Overlord for
truly
sure.
is.
I think it's one of those movies that like, I think people slept on it, but I think it's one of those movies we'll see in like 10 years that gets like a huge cult following or something,
Oh, I hope so, because I was just seeing, the budget for that movie was 38 million, and it just made at the box 41 million. So you
Right.
give or take, advertising, promotion, it basically maybe lost a million or two.
Pretty much.
So, that's one. Yeah, that's one I wouldn't mind seeing I mean, if they could make a sequel out of, like, that would be one of the movies I would definitely want to see a sequel for.
Oh yeah, no, it's such a good movie, and it definitely has flavors of just like a lost John Carpenter film or something like that. Where again, like I said, I think it'll
Right.
find its audience. And everybody I've talked to absolutely loves it. I think it's just one of those niche sort of like horror movies that if you're a huge fan of that kind of movie, you're gonna love it. And if you don't, you're probably not gonna even bother to watch it. And I think that's the case with
Correct.
Overlord. Not a lot of people bothered to even go see it. Um, but I'm with you. Overlord is fantastic. It's got a solid cast, great villains too. Um, so yeah, I love Overlord. Do you want to just hop into our list then?
Yeah, let's jump into our list with our both our number fives here. Let's see how your list shakes out here.
All right. So I thought about this for a while, and I have two movies in here from the same year. And I thought about which one I wanted to kick out and if I wanted to kick one or the other out at all. But I don't think I am. I feel like both movies came out and really just like I felt like they were some of the best I've experienced in this decade of horror. I felt like it was some of the
Right.
most fun I've had in a theater. I think you know which movies I'm talking about, so I'm going to go ahead and mention one of them, and I'm going to go with Andy Muschietti's It Chapter 1, based on the Stephen King novel. And I think It Chapter 1 is just one of the coolest adaptations of Stephen King's work. I think because the first half of that novel is so easy to adapt. It's really the second half when it gets into the
Right.
adult stuff that you could see directors and filmmakers running into problems. But really, that first half, if you nail the sort of camaraderie of the kids and you cast them really well, and this movie has such a great cast. The kids work. The scares are insane off the charts. I went to an early fan screening in 2017, and everybody was just losing their minds. There's so many memorable, great all-time scares in this, and I think they did such a great job, man. Um, but yeah, It Chapter 1, I think it's super well directed, well acted. Scares are great. Again, I'm
Right.
all about that escalation to the third act, and the escalation to the third act is so good. And the way they defeat Pennywise in this is so 80s. Yeah, it's the perfect mix of, Stand By Me meets Nightmare on Elm Street, and I think it wears its heart on its sleeve. I think it's such a great film, and that opening, it's iconic. So I'm gonna go with it. Chapter 1.
It is an iconic. All right, I like it. I like your number 5 spot there. Definitely, it Chapter 1 is an iconic movie. I think it's gonna go down as you know as the best It movie. I think there's a lot of nostalgia for the miniseries. It wasn't even a movie; it was a miniseries. So
Undisputed.
there's still a lot of love for that, right? And but I feel as the kids that watched it Chapter 1 that came out a couple of years ago, as they get older, this will be their nostalgic one, and this one's the one that's going to be remembered more than the one came out in the 90s.
100%. Yeah, this is like their Nightmare on Elm Street, pretty much.
Pretty much. So my list, I take a look at my list, and everybody loves a slasher. I love slashers. Freddy and Jason and Chucky. Michael Myers is last because I really dislike him. But whatever. It's not about Michael Myers. But I found out something about myself that my favorite genre, as I was compiling my top 5, has no slashers, and it's all supernatural, demonic possessions in my top 5. Like I feel like those are the movies that scare me the most. I feel, as absurd as it sounds, I feel like a demonic possession or evil spirits or something supernatural is more likely to happen than a slasher. Like I feel myself, I could be in a, I feel myself being more in a, exorcism or in a demonic possession movie than I find myself being, in a slasher type event. So, anyways, with that being said, my number 5 movie, I'm going to 2010, the beginning of the decade, and that's going to be James Wan's Insidious. I thought that movie, watching it, was just phenomenal. And again, it goes back to how the decade started off with strong acting. Because you had Patrick Wilson in it. You had
Rose Byrne. Yeah.
Rose Byrne was in it. I mean, so you start off the decade with a really strong movie directed by a guy that made Saw. He was already established, back in the earlier 2000s with the Saw movies, and he just puts out a phenomenal, I want to say, demonic, sort of movie. It's just like, you see a stepping stone, and, that's not the first time James Wan's going to come up on the list, a little spoiler alert for that. But he really took off, running in 2010s with Insidious for me.
Oh, yeah. Insidious is on my honorable mentions. I think it's a great stepping stone movie. It's a great showcase of, look what I can do. Imagine if I could do this on a big budget. And I think Insidious is a perfect showcase of that. It's a great family drama. It's sort of like the modern-day Poltergeist. Lynn Shay is great in it as well. And she sort of becomes the series lead as we go on throughout the franchise. Insidious is a culture. I think it's a culture stone of horror of the 2010s. It really sets the tone of what we're going to get for the next 10 years. Which is a lot of possession, a lot of demonic stuff, a lot of sort of supernatural, haunted house movies. And I think Insidious is one of the first and one of the best that was and will be to ever do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think that's, I think we both have very, very solid number 5s, and then, hopefully, our number 4s don't disappoint here. So, I'm definitely interested to see what you have at number 4 here.
Yeah. So I'm gonna switch things up because you know what? I'm making a last minute change.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a last minute change because I think one movie I remember the experience better than the other. So give me a second here because I really struggled with flipping these back and forth. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say my number 4 is Get Out. I'm going to put Get Out as number 4. I had it higher, but I gave it some thought, and that's not a knock on Get Out at all. It was really the two were head and head. I was like, well, which one was more memorable? Which one's more iconic? Which one is the imagery I remember more? So we'll talk about that movie later. But Get Out is just a phenomenal showcase. Directorial debut, really just strong writing. I mean, obviously he's got the writing Oscar for it, best original screenplay. And really just, it's a really great coming out party for Jordan Peele as like a new master of horror. The first two acts are tension filled.
Oh, careful. You can't say that.
Oh, yeah. Everybody doesn't. Yeah, for some reason, some horror fans really do dislike him. But I don't care. I love Jordan Peele. I think he's going to do great writing Candyman. I can't wait for whatever else he does next. Because Get Out is awesome and amazing. And it really feels like the movies that they talk about in the 60s that had great political messages but were really creepy, like Stepford Wives or Rosemary's Baby, Night of the Living Dead. Stuff that felt very adult-themed and timely was also super creepy and unsettling. And Get Out is such an unsettling movie, but it's also a super fun movie. And it goes back to that thing where I said I like crowd-pleasing movies. I like movies where I could follow the main character and see their arc come full circle and uprise in the third act. And Get Out has such a great third act where everything pays off and you're cheering and you're having a fun time, but also delivers on the scares as well. So number 4 is Get Out.
No, absolutely, and that's a great number 4. You know, it's like one of those movies you could sit down and eat Fruit Loops with. You know. Oh
yeah, you just like crunch on them or something. Yeah.
Just crunch on them, no milk, just crunch on Fruit Loops.
So yeah, number 4 is Get Out.
All right, so my number 4 is a remake, I guess you would say. I never saw the original. The original is from the 70s, and when I wanted to see it, when I heard this movie was coming out, I wanted to see the original, but it was so hard to get a copy of this, so I was just like, forget this, I'm just gonna see it. And that is Suspiria. So
okay,
it's one of those movies that you're watching it, and you don't know what the hell is going on. You're just sitting there watching things, go across the screen, and you see these dance performances, and then you see some weird stuff going on, in the basement of this thing, and then you just see bones breaking, you see old people. Like, it was just like, you don't know. To me, at least, I didn't know what the hell was going on. And that's what I love about movies sometimes is, take me on a journey. Basically, put a blindfold on me, take me on a journey. And don't let me see what's going on, or I don't want to know what the hell's going on, and then all of a sudden give me a payoff where at the end I'm sitting there and I'm like, what the hell did I just watch? And then it makes you want to see it a second time and a third time, so that way you can pick up on things that you might have missed. And that's what that movie does for me. Now, I've heard people say, well, it's not the same from the 70s, it's different. I don't really care about that movie anymore because I have this one, and this is the one for me that really made it for me, that really made me really like this movie a lot,
Yeah. No, I'm a huge fan of Suspiria. I remember me and you talked about it when it came out on Blu-ray because I blind bought it. I've never seen the original Dario Argento movie. I've seen Dario Argento movies. I've seen movies he's produced, like Demons and stuff, but I've never seen the original Suspiria. I know I might lose my horror fan card for that, but, I'll get to it. There's so many movies I got to watch. There's a lot of movies I got to get to. When I have the time, I'll get to them and watch them. But Suspiria was one where everybody was raving about it. It was pretty much polarizing. People were either raving or hating it. But the trailers looked super cool to me. I've heard so many great things from people I trusted about it. So I pretty much blind bought it. I had some sort of Amazon points. So I was able to get the Blu-ray for free. I remember turning it on and telling you guys right after how, crazy it is. It's exactly what you said. It's like, if you go into this movie blind, it's a journey. The music is insane. It's got this great sound to it. The sound mix is incredible. The cinematography is awesome. Feels like a 70s movie. And again, it's one of those movies that does carry political themes as well in the story during the time period it takes place in. Really, the journey of the characters. There's one iconic moment that really sticks out in my head. And if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. It's the dance scene where she's in one room Every move he does
Yes.
is breaking the bones of a girl in the next room, and it's just, man, that image is one of the best images in horror in the past 10 years. It's like if we had a mixtape with the best iconic moments, that's definitely on there. But yeah, like
Absolutely.
Suspiria is one of those movies I've never gotten around to, but I absolutely love the remake. And again, that's one of them that's definitely in my top 20 of the decade. So I don't argue with that there. I love Suspiria.
Yes. So, so definitely an agreement on that one. So where are we going on? Where are we going for number 3 in here with you?
All right. So this was the movie. I don't know why I was going back and forth, but I really thought about it because I was thinking, all right, Get Out, I had a feeling it was going to be good because I love Jordan Peele and his skits. I love Keanu. I'm like, you know what? Like, it doesn't matter what genre this dude is in. A good filmmaker's a good filmmaker. But with this movie, it sat on the shelf for like 4 years. It was shot in 2009. They kept pushing it back, saying, we're going to put it in 3D. We're going to push it back and do reshoots. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. It needs more time. With the studio lost rights to it or something. It really sat on the back burner. And then this little-known actor named Chris Hemsworth does Thor and the Avengers. And then they go, oh, shit, we know what to do with this movie. And that's Cabin in the Woods. Finally gets released in 2012. I had no idea what this movie was. The trailer really gives nothing away. You really think you're just seeing a basic kids go cabin in the woods kind of movie. And man, that's not what you get. Like, this is one of the most meta, weird, crazy, funny, all-out bloody, insane horror films. And it has one of the best ensemble casts of the decade in horror. Some of the most memorable characters and kills and monsters. And really, it's an all-out love letter to the genre, to the slasher genre, the monster genre. There's great sort of cameos in it. It has such a great third act. Again, it's something that I love. It's like you got to go big or go home in the third act. Like, go for a swing. I want to see something huge. And the third act pays off so well. The monsters, again, are incredible. The characters are so smartly written. And it was one of those fun, unexpected times. And it came at the most perfect time for me because I was in high school and I saw that. And it was really one of those moments where I was like, shit, I think I'm watching like a modern sort of classic. And it's one of those movies where I put up with Scream, where it sort of just rewrites the sort of narrative of what a horror movie or at least a slasher movie could be. Because now, like, what do you do with a slasher? Because there's really Cabin in the Woods sort of bookends it, where it's like we've done everything, you know. And I absolutely love it. I think Cabin in the Woods is a really iconic film, and yeah, I put it in number 3. I think it's going to be remembered one of the best for the decade in horror for sure.
No, absolutely. I just saw that like 2 weeks ago. So I was just scrolling through YouTube and I saw, this guy, probably everybody probably knows him, James A. Janice, and he did a kill count in Cabin in the Woods. And he's like, oh, shout out to him and his channel. I don't know, whatever. But he was like, oh, don't watch this video if you haven't seen the movie. He's like, just watch the movie. He's like, and before you watch my, this. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to watch this. So I watched it, and then I was like, I got intrigued. I was like, well, I got to watch this movie. And so I saw it a couple weeks ago. And man, that movie it was like almost a perfect horror movie in a sense. It had everything.
Yeah.
You had zombies, you had slashers, you had, possession in it. It just, like you just said, it just like bookend. Yeah, you had Merman. It just bookend everything. And like it was just a great movie. So I agree. I agree with you for putting that movie in their top 5.
Oh yeah, I love it. So what's going to be the next film for you?
Well, unfortunately, that movie didn't make the top 5 for me. But my number 3 is a movie that I cannot stop talking about. I cannot stop spreading the love for it. I recently watched it last night on my, third rewatch since it's come out, and that is Midsommar. It's my favorite movie of 2019. Ari Aster did a phenomenal job of following, Hereditary, which was one of your honorable mentions. To me, Midsommar was, the epitome for him. I hope he does bigger and better things, but up to this point, Midsommar to me is this like quintessential movie. Like if he never does anything else, this would be the movie he will be remembered for. It's a movie that, you know, has beautiful shots of, you know, supposedly Sweden, you know, it's Budapest where they filmed it, but beautiful shots. You know, it's broad daylight horror. You know, nothing really is done in the dark. You know, it has to me one of the most shocking kills, and it's not technically a kill, more of a, you know, spoiler. Sorry, but it's been about a year, so if you haven't watched it, whatever. But I would say, you know, the tradition that they have, and you know, they're jumping off the cliff,
Right.
and you know, just how the person dies is just to me was shocking. So seeing it in the movie theater, you're not expecting that. You expect the camera to pan away and for the camera to stay on it, and for you to see, you know, the splat, the first one, and then you see the second one and it doesn't hit, and then they go and like finish them off, and you see it, and they don't pan away. They actually show those in a very brutal way. Like that made me absolutely adore that movie. You know, the same way that, you know, Hostel did some things for me back in 2000s. This is the same thing that did for me, you know, for this decade. And then, and like I said, it's just definitely my favorite movie of 2019, and top 3 of the decade for me.
Okay. Yeah, no, I wouldn't argue that. I think Midsummer is a pretty great movie. It was definitely, I think it missed out my top 10 of the year. I think it's definitely like top 20. I think it's, you know, a very visceral and exciting sort of film to look at. Not an exciting movie, but exciting film to look at because it's beautifully shot and acted, and there's some really good moments of comedy as well. The movie's kind of like underratedly funny. Some aspects, there's some great characters there. And I got to agree about the kill. I think that's another kill where, like, we look at the decade of horror, it's just like, boom, that suicide scene where, like, you know, the old people are jumping off the cliff. It's just like, man, like, the camera stays static, and you just see the bodies just hit the ground. And, yeah, I mean, the bear suit, too. So, you know, it's a good, yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great movie. I think I have to revisit it because I really enjoyed it, but I didn't absolutely love it like I did with Hereditary. But I wouldn't argue with that being on the list. I know that that's a movie that people are really loving more and more and more the more they view it. I think it's one I have to pick up on Blu-ray too soon. So I wouldn't argue that. Midsummer is definitely a great film.
Absolutely. So now we're entering here towards the tail end of our list here. What's your number 2? What do you have here?
All right. So number 2 and number 1 went back and forth for a little bit. But I ultimately I decided number 2 is going to be Evil Dead, The Evil Dead. 2013, Fede Alvarez's remake. This movie's insane, man. It's insane. I remember the ad campaign was just like a giant poster in movie theaters, and it's just the tagline is "scariest movie like ever" or something. And it's just the main character walking, and it's just all red, and she's drenched in blood. And I was like, okay, I'm sold. Because by then it played by all the festivals, and everybody's talking about how crazy this movie is. I still got to see the extended cut. I hear the extended cut's pretty insane. But
here, give me 1 second. Sorry, my bad.
Oh yeah.
I apologize. My throat's getting a little itchy.
Oh, it's all good. So yeah, I think Evil Dead. What I was saying was, by the time I saw it, you heard all this talk about how crazy it is and how great the effects are and the gore and the violence and even some of the comedy. So when I walked into that movie, I remember seeing it first 5 minutes, the entire front row walks out, and it's just me in the theater with some people scattered in the background. And it was just one of the most fun. I was by myself, but I still had a killer time. It was such a blast. It has such great characters, and the story arc of the main character, what she goes through. She's a recovering addict. It's a really, they give you, they don't need to remake it. It's not a remake. I shouldn't even call it that. It's more of a sequel. It's definitely a sequel. It's like, I don't know, like a reboot sequel. The events of the first film
Right.
and every film are still connected into this, but the movie goes into its own totally different direction. It goes balls to the wall. It says we're going to make the most fucked up, crazy, straight-faced, scary movie, and you're going to be in for the ride. And that's what it does. It really sets out to go all in, and it's got to be the bloodiest film I've seen. Definitely in this decade. I know some people might say some of the Peter Jackson movies from the 90s, but definitely Evil Dead's got to be one of the bloodiest things I've experienced watching. So Evil Dead, number 2. I love that movie.
Oh man, I definitely agree with you. I'm just gonna say my number 2 because we're actually gonna talk about Evil Dead a little bit more, as
Okay.
that's another thing. My number 2 is a movie that I think changed, um, like haunted movies. I would say, possession movies. It changed a lot in that genre. And again, it's James Wan. Just you know him doing the visionary director that he is and writer. I feel like, with The Conjuring, I know there's a lot of source material with the Warrens, and there's the Amityville stuff that the Warrens did, but
Right.
when The Conjuring first came out, it was a movie that I would say hasn't been seen. I feel like that's the movie that Amityville wish it was, and I know that's
Right.
a strong phrase to say, but I don't think I've ever watched an Amityville movie and thought like, oh, this is really, really scary. Like I've watched, the ones from the 80s and the 90s and I've watched
Right.
all the Amityville movies, like the home, so many remakes that they did and like the in-betweens. But I feel like The Conjuring was what the Amityville should have been. And James Wan definitely, made a perfect like haunted house movie, and the creepiness factor. I remember watching it in the theater, and just being in the dark theater, I was just creeped out, but just by being there. It's one of those movies that I can't really watch alone still by myself because I get creeped out pretty easily when I watched it, and still when I watch it. And I know it's done a lot of spin-offs, and The Conjuring 2 was, and we got a Conjuring 3 coming out this year.
Right.
But it fast lit a franchise with Annabelle and all these other movies. But I don't know. The Conjuring, I can't say enough good things about it. And it's one of the movies that I absolutely adore. I love. And, definitely my number 2 pick of the decade for that.
So that's going to lead into my number 1, because my number 1 is The Conjuring. And it's everything that you said.
Oh.
Yeah, so our number 1 and 2 are just switched up a little bit, but they really could just be tied. For me, they're pretty much tied. And they came out the same year. That's another one that came out. They both came out the same year. Evil Dead came out 2013. Conjuring came out 2013. That's something to think about there. Yeah, I just thought about that right now. I'm like, oh shit, we had two the best of the decade, at least for our list, came out the same year, 2013. But yeah, and those were 2 experiences where they both gave me 2 completely different experiences, but I still had that same effect where, again, I like crowd-pleasing horror movies. And The Conjuring, I didn't expect to love it. It was talked about for a little, but it really became a sleeper hit. It was the more and more people saw it, and it became hyped. I remember outside the theater, they had warnings for people who like couldn't really like stand it and stuff. Like they had warnings at AMC, like if it was too scary and stuff. But really, that was one of the most fun experiences I've had watching a horror movie. I saw grown men screaming during The Conjuring, like literally, like we watched a sold out show at midnight, and I felt tense and unsettled walking out the theater. And I know it's not art house horror, and some people might brush it off, but The Conjuring set the stone. If Insidious showed what James Wan can do, The Conjuring showed like that's his masterpiece. This is what I can. This is like I set the stone for horror movies for this decade. Like any movie after it tried to be The Conjuring, even the spinoff tried to reach that level. And like Conjuring 2 is almost as good. It's like right there, It has the same genuine heart, same scares. I think Conjuring 2 definitely goes a little too big in that with the monsters and stuff. And I think Conjuring 1 definitely perfects it, or it keeps things grounded. And I think that's why it's so perfect. It's grounded horror. It's scary. The jump scares are legit, like skin crawling. You know, even to this day, if you know the jump scares, it's still fucking creepy. You know, and then the characters are so well developed.
It is.
And that's something to be said about how well directed it is. Like James Wan really becomes the master of the decade with this movie. If he set the stone for what things were going to be with Insidious, he pretty much lets it be known. Like it's like a mic drop. The first Conjuring movie, and it's literally like one of the again with Evil Dead and this, some of the best experiences I've had watching a horror movie. And I think it's one of those movies where people who don't watch horror, I always throw in The Conjuring. I think it's the easiest movie to get somebody into horror movies with, because it has really rootable characters. It has a really nice story about family, and it has a great, again, third act for me too. So definitely number one of the decade, Conjuring. So what's going to be your number one here, Gabe?
My number one, well, I mean, we've said it, you know, it's Evil Dead. You know, that's, you know, the continuation of the original Evil Dead trilogy. You know, Evil Dead for me still reigns supreme. It's the bloodiest movie, one of the bloodiest movies I've ever seen. The third act is completely insane. You know, you got blood raining down. You got this demon god coming out. Fucking arm is like pulled off from under a Jeep. Blood spewing everywhere, blood raining, like you're just everywhere. There's blood. And it is the ultimate, to me, one of the ultimate possession movies, because, you know, the girl gets possessed and then she starts possessing everybody else.
And then she becomes the hero.
Yeah, then she becomes the hero. And then the dude that was going to be like the nerdy, like the friend, like he comes off like towards the end, like guns blazing. You think he's dead, but all of a sudden he's possessed. Freaking nails coming out of his face, and you know, I don't know. It was crazy. It was bloody. You know, the scene, and to this day, I remember the splitting the tongue in half.
Oh yeah, man.
Cringe-worthy and just an iconic scene in that movie. I mean, between that scene and the tearing the arm off the Jeep, I mean, you're talking about two very iconic scenes and just one movie.
Oh yeah, just one movie. The chainsaw arm, and I was wondering, I'm like, I wonder if they're gonna do something like that. And they do the chainsaw arm thing. They throw that in, and they throw in one of the best lines I think of the decade too. Is just eat this motherfucker. Or right? She's like, eat this. Was that? I think that was the line.
Right.
And and it's such a great line, and with the chainsaw kill and everything, it's just, and with the blood just pouring down through rain, it's an iconic moment. And again, the tongue splitting too is in all the marketing and all the trailers and stuff too. So I remember that was like so talked about, like this movie that looked so fucking insane, and then the movie comes out and it's just wild. It's just like even the trailers don't even do it justice. It's just a crazy ass movie.
Right.
And it's everything that I love about horror movies, too. It's just like Evil Dead, such a perfect film. I like it better than the original, too.
No, absolutely. And then I just want to touch base a little bit on The Conjuring here, that we say was a game changer. Obviously, it's your number one, my number two, but like we said, it could be interchangeable with Evil Dead.
Right.
But it's the movie that made horror a summer blockbuster. Since 2013, there has been a horror movie that's considered part of the blockbuster, you know, summer blockbusters. It came out in July, and it was New Line. New Line was basically written off at this point. They hadn't done a Freddy since 2009. It sort of bombed in a sense, and New Line was on life support. And then, so they threw in The Conjuring in between, you know, all these superhero movies or whatever was coming out, and, you know, in July. And all of a sudden it has legs. And so The Conjuring goes from this throwaway movie that was put in the middle of summer tentpole films. All of a sudden it has legs. And all of a sudden it like wins the box office. Or I don't think it won the first weekend, but then the second weekend
it won.
It
won multiple weekends. Yeah.
And it just kept on rolling and rolling. And then we get to the point now where every Conjuring movie is released in the summer. Horror movies are getting released in the summer. Instead of horror movies being released in, you know, January, October, whatever, we get basically much getting horror movies throughout the year and Bane ones in the summer. And I mean, this past year we had Crawl, we had Chucky, We had
Annabelle.
Midsommar come out, Annabelle. 4 movies come out in within like weeks of each other, and just
Yeah.
in 2019.
No, yeah, and it's no, it's true. It's the movie that made. I know people can say Jaws and people can say Poltergeist, and I think those movies definitely made horror big. But I think in the 2010s, the 2000s in general, The Conjuring put it on the map of horror movies can't just be big movies. We can make them gigantic blockbusters, and and every horror film follows suit now with Get Out, Us, Halloween, all these Blumhouse movies all take a page out of Conjuring of we can make some serious bank with horror movies.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's what it did. You take it at a low budget, where their budget was just a 20 million budget, which doesn't sound. It sounds like a lot, but in that type of movie, 20 million is not much to do, especially when you have some CGI effects and what have you. And it ended up making 319 million. Like, that's insane.
It's insane.
So I don't know. We definitely had some really, interesting, movies on our list here, though.
Oh yeah, and I think it was such a good decade. I see so many horror fans who talk about like, like there hasn't been a good horror movie since this or since that, and she's like, that's insane, man. Like I can name 5, 6, 7 movies off the top of my head that I could go, that's some of the best stuff I've seen in horror history in this decade.
Right. And you know what? I feel like as as fellow horror enthusiast, I know I romanticize, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Like I know that's Freddy is my guy, and and truth be told, most of his movies sucked, with the exception of like maybe one and Dream Child.
1 and 3 probably, yeah.
Probably, and everyone's like, so like we romanticize like old horror, and so whenever the new stuff comes out, we always say, oh, we don't like it, or a majority of us do, because you and I feel like we like it for what it's worth and the value that it comes out with. Like we don't immediately bash something without giving it a watch. I'll use Child's Play as an example. That movie was bashed so much in the horror community. We saw it. We both liked it. It made my top 5 of 2019. It made your honorable mentions. But I feel like as a community, as a horror community, we need to stop not romanticizing it, because it's always a great thing, but just realize, there was a good 80s were a good era for horror. 90s not so much. But the 2010s, I mean, I would put that on equal footing, maybe even a little bit higher than the horror movies from the 80s.
I agree. I honestly agree. I think we got a little bit of something in everything. And even people who are like, oh, what about slashers? We had a ton of good slashers. Strangers Pray at Night. I think that's a fun movie with some really iconic moments, a great soundtrack. We got stuff like You're Next. We got The Guest. The Guest didn't make my top 5. And the reason why, because I think the Guest sort of jumps around different genres, and that it's definitely in my top movies of the decade. I just didn't put it down as a horror movie because I feel like it's more of a thriller. It kind of jumps around a little bit. But even something like Halloween, I think Halloween is better than most of the Halloween sequels that came out in the 80s and in the 90s and early 2000s. And I think it really sets itself up to really become better and better in the movies that are coming out soon. So I felt like this decade just had a little bit of something for every kind of horror fan out there. You really just get to look for it. That's it. Right.
No, you definitely need to look for it. And, so far, I'm excited for what the 20s are going to bring. I know that as far as, maybe another episode, and most anticipated movies of 2020, but I feel like, we had a little bit of a step back with The Grudge, but whatever. I think they were going to lose their licensing rights or whatever, so they had to do like a fast movie for that. But I feel like this is going to be a really good year for horror, pretty good decade. I mean, I feel like we set a stepping stone, in the 2010s, and now we're gonna be ready to take that step. Um, and I feel like with people like Ari Aster, Jordan Peele, James Wan, I feel like horror's in really good hands, and then you have writers like David Gordon Green, and
Right.
funny enough, what's his face, the guy,
Danny McBride,
Danny
yeah.
McBride. I mean, those type of writers, taking care of, the old franchises, I feel like we're in really good hands, and I'm excited to see where horror is going to go, in this next decade.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, the only thing I want is to be entertained, whether that's making me feel unsettled or making me feel grossed out or just having a fun as hell time. One of my most anticipated, I know off the bat, is going to be The Invisible Man, and that comes out next month. I think The Invisible Man is going to be awesome. I have no doubt that movie is going to really be one of the first great horror movies of the 20s, for sure.
I think for me, it's going to be a movie that has been in production for like 20 years, it seems like, and that's going to be New Mutants.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. For some reason, I wanted to see this since it was first announced, and then we got that trailer 3-4 years ago, and it had this horror vibe to it. And then they talked about, oh, we're doing reshoots because it's too scary or it's too dark. And then, the movie got delayed more. Then the Fox Disney thing happened and got delayed even longer. And now finally, they dropped another trailer a couple weeks ago, and the director says, my original vision. Disney said, just go with your original vision. And now I feel like that's going to be like a very, very spooky PG-13 horror movie. So I'm excited for that one.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. Getting a lot of Dream Warriors vibes to it too. So I think it'll be fun. That's another one I'm looking forward to. I don't know what else is coming out in terms of horror for the 20s. We really don't know besides the big franchises like Saw. I think Saw might be fun. I think bringing somebody like Chris Rock and Sam Jackson in there is just insane. I would never have pictured that. I know we got Halloween Kills. I think that'll be solid for sure. I think it'll expand the story and be a solid horror movie. But I don't know what to expect.
I think we have the return of the Candyman this year too.
We do in the summer, and we haven't seen a look at that or any. We have no idea what that movie is even about. What's going on with that?
No, not at all. But it's something to look into, and see. Like we said, it's exciting, and hopefully, we'll be scared in 2020s.
That's all you can hope for. I think we'll be off to a solid start. I think by the end of this year, if this podcast is still going, and we think we'll talk about I think we should talk about what our favorite horror movies of 2020 were and see where we line up compared to 2019 and how we're looking at for the decade in general.
Absolutely.
All right, so I think that'll do it for this episode. I mean, we pretty much covered everything, and I think we both had really solid lists. We both loved each other's movies. Obviously, we pretty much agreed on a lot of stuff. So yeah, I think the 2010s were a pinnacle year for horror. They were definitely an important year, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen next.
Me as well. And so, just to let everybody know a little bit, as we're going through some transitions from the We Come in Peace, we're going to be starting up a new YouTube channel. We already have one episode recorded. We're hoping to post it up this week at some point by the end of the week. I mean, it's Thursday, so maybe by early next week, what have you. But we're going to have a new channel, so definitely give us a like, subscribe, what have you. Let us know what type of lists you want to see, more horror, action, maybe you want to see the top 5 Eddie Murphy movies, what have you. Just let us know in the comments. That would be fun, actually. There's so many good stuff that he has.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just let us know and, bear with us as we go through some changes and, we got, this will be our second episode on this new channel. So hopefully you guys enjoy everything that, that we're trying to do here.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'll do it for this episode, and we'll close out here. But I agree with everything Gabe said. Again, that's Gabe. I'm Tony. This is Top 5. It's a new show where we talk about the top 5 movies of something, someone, of a genre And we'll see you guys in the next episode. We'll figure out what that is. We'll let that be a surprise, honestly, while we navigate this channel and get the first 2 episodes up. We'll keep in contact with you guys, and make sure you comment and subscribe down below by the time you're watching this. I sure hope that you comment, subscribe, and like the videos. And we'll see you in the next episode.
All right.